Letizia Ciaccafava.
Eccoci. Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti. L'arrivo delle nuove tecnologie come il Metaverso e le sue applicazioni ci porteranno a vivere in un mondo virtuale dove la connessione tra il mercato del turismo e i suoi operatori arriverà a delle connessioni molto più profonde tra le persone rispetto a quello che succede oggi con i media attuali. La nascita dei metaversi e l'evoluzione nelle digital twin ci permettono di vivere una twin experience che molte volte precede l'esperienza fisica ed influenza la fase decisionale e il comportamento dei consumatori. Queste tecnologie arricchiscono di un nuovo touch point molto più immersivo ed inclusivo la customer journey. Ma tutte queste tecnologie sono degli strumenti, non delle soluzioni. È importante per tutti gli operatori che decidono di utilizzarle porre sempre la massima attenzione su ciò che gli utenti, i consumatori e i viaggiatori cercano e vogliono e poter leggere i dati di ritorno e le analisi da queste esperienze come un'opportunità per poter crescere. Oggi per me è un grande onore potervi presentare qui su questo palco Emma Chu, Global Director della Wunderman & Thompson Intelligence, che ci presenterà in esclusiva per il BTO e per l'Italia una ricerca di come queste tecnologie impattano nel mondo del turismo. È stata nominata tra le 24 top manager al mondo per aver seguito progetti Web3 per grandi brand. But I don't want to steal more time from her. Thank you, Emma, for being here. And it's a great pleasure to introduce you to Emma Chu, Global Director of Wunderman & Thompson Intelligence.
Thank you, Leticia. There's definitely no doubt about it. When it comes to technology, the metaverse, digital twins, it's really shaping our lives. And not only is it shaping our lives, but it's changing the way we think about tourism and travel. And with that, of course, there's going to be a lot of implications, but more so, there's a lot of opportunities within travel. So I'm excited to be talking about this. Now, let's track the trends when it comes to travel. We've definitely evolved the way we think about traveling. Pre-pandemic, we were traveling in abundance. There was a lot of travel happening. We were traveling so much so that certain cities had to curb tourism because they couldn't handle the flow. And then, of course, the global pandemic hit and the way we thought about travel started to shift to become more meaningful. And what does that mean? It meant we were thinking more about family and friends as priorities when it came to travel. But right now, as things are opening up, we're thinking about what we're calling the greatest travel of all time. So things that were once on our bucket list that we were saving for years and years to come, these trips are happening right now. And as things evolve with the implications of technology and the metaverse, we're going to start seeing a fusion of what we're calling enhanced travel. Now, I've separated my presentation into 3 buckets. The first looking at destination metaverse, then talking about advanced avatars, and the third being extended experiences. So let's start with destination metaverse. How many people in the audience has visited a virtual world? Okay, good. Well, actually quite a good number of people, about 40%, I would say, raise their hands. So what are we learning? In March of this year, we conducted a global survey and we found that 50% of people said they believe the metaverse will be part of their daily life. Gartner predicts that by 2026, 1 in 4 people will spend at least 1 hour every day in the metaverse. So that's not too far off from where we are now. So in 3 years' time, people will be spending at least 1 hour of their lives in the metaverse. When it comes to virtual worlds, this is the metaverse as we understand it right now. The metaverse is a series of virtual worlds that are three-dimensional, persistent, reactive, and more importantly, social. So these virtual worlds are becoming what we're calling the new hangouts, where people are going and engaging and spending their time. In our survey, 82% say the metaverse will be a place to socialize in. So socializing in these virtual spaces is key. Having that ability to be part of a community, to be with other people, that is what the metaverse is really about. And we've seen this touching on different aspects of our lives, from work to e-commerce to health and well-being, so doing yoga in the metaverse, and then to product launches. So here is an example of Volvo launching their car in the metaverse. So thousands of people were able to attend this launch, not just exclusively a handful of people in person being there. So it's actually opening access to more people from all over the world. And of course, with that, it makes sense that there are more and more hospitality groups actually creating their own metaverse. So we've seen examples of different hotels creating their own virtual worlds, from Citizen M that you can see pictured here, to Millennium Hotels creating M Social in Decentraland, and Levin Hotels creating the Levinverse. So what we're seeing here with these different hotel groups, they're creating virtual worlds that takes on essences of their brand identity and what they want from consumer engagement, and making that something transparent in these virtual worlds. So they're thinking about, how do we want to better connect with people? How do we want people to better connect with different people around the hotel, different communities? Now, shifting from a small scale hotel to a larger scale, how will cities look like when it comes to the metaverse? Increasingly, governments and also cities are thinking about wanting to create digital twins of what exists already. So what does that mean, a digital twin? Exactly as the word says, really. It is a digital version of the physical form. And more cities are thinking about creating their own. So Seoul, at the end of last year, they announced that they, by 2026, will be launching Seoul Metaverse. What that entails right now is still quite ambiguous. They haven't quite said what it is exactly, but they're definitely patenting a lot of different trademarks when it comes to the metaverse for the city. And they're also thinking about how digital spaces can work and how people can navigate these spaces. So Seoul is one of the first cities to announce they'll be creating their own. But then, of course, we will also have Dubai and Saudi Arabia's NEOM. They are also creating their own digital twin cities. And increasingly, they're thinking about, how can citizens within these digital spaces interact? And not only that, how will visitors be able to visit the city before they actually go in person? And perhaps that can help dictate the places that they visit. And not only that, perhaps that will also help them make the decision to go in person to the city as well. So I definitely think there's a lot of synergy between what happens virtually and what happens physically. They're definitely something that happens together. It's not one or the other. We need to think about them both together. And this is what these digital twins are allowing us to do. So it's great for first-time visitors to visit places virtually first, but also for people who have visited places already. They can revisit virtually. How amazing is that, to be able to recreate an experience that you've had, that you have fond memories of, and recreate that virtually? So I definitely think there's different ways we can think about how these digital twins and how these cities and these trips can navigate and work. I love this quote because I think it really captures the way we think about tourism and the metaverse. Virtual tourism may serve as a springboard to in-person tourism. So like I said, they definitely should be working together. The virtual world should be helping inform us of physical decisions. Now, I know my talk is about the metaverse and digital twins. So why am I talking about avatars? Well, because it's something that's integral to how we represent ourselves as we move around and navigate the metaverse. Who here has an avatar? Oh yeah, very enthusiastic. I'm sure you spent a lot of time on your avatar. So what we're noticing is that our physical selves are extending into our digital identities. So again, the physical version of us is being represented in a digital format, and it could represent ourselves in more colorful ways. We can think about how our mood state is. Perhaps we don't want to be in a human body. Maybe we want to be in a different type of skin. And our clothes, maybe they can change colors, they can shape shift. So I think there's a lot to play with when it comes to what our avatars can look and be like. What we found in our survey is something quite interesting when it comes to how we represent ourselves. What we found is that 76% of people who know and can explain the metaverse, they say they want their avatar to express their creativity and individuality in ways that they can't in the physical world. And in addition, over half of people, so 51%, feel it would be easier for them to be their true, authentic self in the metaverse. So this is quite interesting because people feel they're able to be more authentic, they're able to be more in touch with themselves, they're able to learn more about themselves and express themselves more in these virtual spaces. And when we think of travel, the premise of travel is not only to learn more about different cultures, different societies, different ways of living, but of course it's to enhance our lives. What can we draw and take away from our travel that will help enhance our lives and make us learn more about ourselves? So I definitely think when it comes to our avatars and how we are, the premise of it, it's increasingly shifting into this digital space where we're learning and getting to be in touch with ourselves in ways that perhaps there's restrictions in the physical world. So when it comes to brand engagement, I think there's a lot that brands can do to kind of connect better with people in these virtual spaces. We're at the point when people are creating avatars of themselves and legally getting married. So this is one of the first marriages in Decentraland that is represented by Rose Law Group, which is a law firm, and it's completely official in the physical world. So using this, we can think about how can these virtual and metaverse places cater for events, these opportunities when it comes to things like weddings, birthdays, perhaps an event like this as well. So I do think there's going to be a lot of opportunity with how we think about travel and how these opportunities and events can connect with the physical world as well. On a slight tangent, there is the Moxie Hotel. They are allowing people to use augmented reality to create their own avatars. And with that, you are able to have an avatar, whether it's of yourself or of something else or of someone else. And you can navigate and go around the hotel and conjure up using augmented reality to bring up this avatar. And it makes you think about how you want to interact with physical spaces could be changing. If you're bringing about another layer of digital or another layer of community and person, perhaps there's a friend that was unable to go to the hotel and travel with you, but you really want them to be there. You can bring them up using augmented reality, just like this. So there's a lot of opportunity with how you can layer on these digital aspects. Increasingly, we're also seeing brands using virtual ambassadors to better connect with people. Because if we're thinking about people using the metaverse and using these virtual spaces to learn about themselves or to navigate new places, we also want to think about how can brands better leverage and connect with people. So it's not just about, here's a space for you to roam in. It's, here's a space for you to do what you want to do. And we also have representatives there to connect with you, to talk to you, to help guide you better. And it's all about the customer experience. And you are able to pair these digital avatars with, for example, artificial intelligence or machine learning, so they can better change to your specific preference. So an example that I have here is Qatar Airways. They created Qverse. Qverse is their metaverse, where you're able to be guided throughout their airline. And they created Sama, seen pictured here, who is a digital cabin crew. And Sama is here to help guide you through this unique virtual experience. And with that, you're able to think about how you are interacting with Qatar Airways virtually first, and perhaps you're able to translate a lot of these experiences physically too. But when we think about the metaverse, avatars and virtual spaces, we also want to think about how can we better engage with different sensory experiences. Of course, virtually, you can't quite taste or smell, but how many times have we sat in front of a television show? It's a food show, and they're prepping or they're eating something, and you start salivating, or it prompts something in you and say, oh, I should eat, I'm hungry now. So there's ways to engage with different senses that we have virtually, and increasingly this is what the metaverse is about. It's about elevating our digital experiences. So the example you see pictured here is Coca-Cola launching Coca-Cola Bite, which is a pixel flavored Coke that was born in the metaverse and inspired by the metaverse. Anyone here sampled Coca-Cola Bite? What did you think of it? Did you like it? You liked it? I was a bit on the border, but it's interesting how they're able to think about tasting something that's digital and turning it into something physical. So pairing the two or being inspired by one or the other is something important. Diageo has translated their taste of the future experience into the virtual world, where you can learn a lot more about different tastes and innovation when it comes to bartending and cocktail concoctions. And more recently, Gucci launched Gucci Flora, which is a scent that was launched in Roblox. And it's not so much about the scent, the smell, it's more about the experience that the smell offers. So when you have a sort of scent, you have a lot of different types of feelings and senses that kind of is spurred as a result of that. And with that, you want to take you on a sort of really engaging experience. And this is what exactly Gucci is trying to tap into when it comes to this. So when it comes to the future, this is a great quote from the VP of Soul Machines, where he says, the future for brands is more connected, and authentic relationships are possible due to these more immersive, engaging, and interactive experiences. So definitely the way we are moving with technology is far more immersive and far more engaging than ever before, and it's going to enhance and become more so. Now, moving on to my very last section, which is talking about extended experiences. So with the introduction of a lot of new technologies, or with the advancement of old technologies, because let's face it, virtual reality, augmented reality, they're not exactly new, but they have evolved and they've become more accessible. They have become better when it comes to user experience. And we're seeing that being used a lot more. So we're starting to see how these technologies can be integrated into cities as you're going on a tour and being guided. Here is Vienna AR. So as you go around Vienna, the city, you're able to also use augmented reality to bring up old parts of Vienna. So you're able to think about it and see it in front of you. The great thing about this is it's affordable because you're not having to do any physical renovation to make that happen. Not only that, you're also able to use your phone to bring up different layers of imagination. So for example, if there's a tour guide describing something to you and the power of your imagination for that day is lacking, you're able to see it right in front of you. Apple, a few years ago, they collaborated with a series of artists and they created these artworks that was displayed around New York City. So you were able to go around to key places in New York City and bring up these big pieces of artwork. And what's fun with these artwork is that it's non-invasive. So again, when you're going around the city, if you choose not to bring up technology, that's totally fine. But if you want to bring up something more, add to the bit more layers to your tour of the city, you're able to bring this up. So there's a choice that people have, and increasingly the younger generation want this. So perhaps, you know, most of us do have AR capabilities on our phone already. It's just about having more and more interactions and engagements that offer that experience. Now, as we move on, we're starting to see that there's more of a blended experience happening with travel and tourism. They're taking us into what I'm calling new worlds. So there's cities, there's places that we visit already that we know exist, but there's also an opportunity where we can bring up these new worlds that don't exist. What we found in our survey is that 55% of Chinese respondents say that a virtual vacation for them sounds appealing. Over 50% of Singaporeans say that they want to try a virtual holiday first to help dictate where they travel in 2023. So virtual tourism could help dictate where you go physically afterwards. This is a sort of hunch and prediction, but also it's from an interview with Philip Brown. He said at Hudson and Brown, they were asked by one family to recreate a travel experience for them, but not only recreate, also enhance. So they said, as part of this virtual tour, we want you to create an experience of places, one, places you have already visited. So places they've visited already. Two, places they want to visit, so the future, places they still have on their list that they want to visit. But the third bucket is the most interesting and that you only can get virtually. Imagine places you want to visit, places that don't exist in the world right now, but is in your imagination. Really, it could open up an abundance of travel that exists out there. Imagine, you know, being able to bring to life certain worlds that you see from movies or films or games, or just places that you imagine. This could open up a whole new realm of tourism. And finally, I just want to end on this quote from Philip Brown, where he talks about the idea of time travel is part of virtual travel. So being able to move in different timelines, you can do that virtually. The convergence of different technologies into the virtual realm could create a serious and exciting alternative to the reality of travel. I believe that travel and the realities of how we travel is really, really changing, and it could be really exciting for the travel industry. I hope you are on the same wavelength as me. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you for your contribution. So, c'è qualcuno in sala che vuole fare una domanda? Does anyone want to ask to Emma something? Yes, one question.
Thank you. Are you from Korea, I imagine?
No, Hong Kong.
Ah, I'm sorry. Being Genoa Walks in Genoa, I'm here just to understand better new opportunities. And I'm very glad to have listened to you today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My question could be, how can I act in the next month to prepare, for instance, Chinese tourism to go to Genoa? And I can use this new metaverse. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question because, you know, the restrictions around travel still exist in some places. So, for example, tourists in China, they still aren't able to fly anywhere or go anywhere, but perhaps they can engage with Genoa through digital experience. Really creating a new world might take some time and it's costly, so on and so forth. But if you want to translate certain experiences that your city or brand can offer, that isn't costly at all. And that could just take about a week or less so. So thinking about different ways, so maybe perhaps you don't need to create a digital twin. That might be too excessive. But there might be different ways of creating these virtual touch points that can echo what you have in the physical world. So even like perhaps the way you're more having a one-on-one conversation with me now, that's something that people really cherish and like from tours. And perhaps you can replicate something like that in the virtual world where people can engage with you, and not just a chatbot or not just through words and not just through a Zoom call, but a way that's three-dimensional and a little bit more engaging where you have your own avatars there. So that isn't costly at all. And that can be done very quickly because there's applications that exist out there already. Thank you.
Well, our time is finished.
Yes.
So thank you, Emma, again for being here. Grazie a tutti per essere qui. Vi auguriamo un buon BTO e buon lavoro a tutti.
Thank you.